Okay. So we're here at the Expedition Medicine National Conference with Dr. Eric Johnson, past president of the Wilderness Medical Society, who came and spoke. So we wanted just to ask you some questions,
Sure.
Eric, about your career in wilderness medicine. I know you started out and you worked in the emergency departments and you've done hyperbarics, but your passion is really wilderness medicine and you've traveled a lot. So tell us sort of about your career and what you've done and how you got into wilderness medicine and just kind of your background.
I think a lot of us always start before we even get into medicine. I mean, for me personally, it was, I've always loved the outdoors, been a climbing bum, even during college. And then when I went to medical school, I think I didn't realize the Wilderness Medicine Society existed until I was actually a third-year student. And it caught me that everything I had been doing in medical school was also kind of related to my outdoor activities. I liked, if I had to do a paper on hypertension, I wouldn't do it. I'd do it on high altitude sickness, or I'd do it on hypothermia or something. And then subsequently, when I was a third-year student doing some research in hypothermia at the University of Minnesota, I was fortunate enough to be invited to go up to Denali and work with Peter Hackett, Brownie Shaney,
what a great opportunity.
Bill Mills, and that kind of, again, mentors, I think, are really key in the world of wilderness. I had an interest, and then I think by being exposed to a number of mentors, that all of a sudden I joined the society, and I thought, well, I'll just be a member. But next thing you know, as you just kind of continue meeting these people who I admired throughout my entire career, I thought were giants in the field. Next thing you know, I just was invited on more experience trips and read more and did more. And next thing you know, I was president of the society. And so it's been kind of this long evolving career that I tell people, if you really, I think the tagline says it all, it's combining our passions with our profession.
Right. And your experience is really interesting because you're sort of known as being a dive medicine person, but you also spend a lot of time at high altitude.
Right.
So how do you balance that with all the...
It's so funny because I probably spend more time at altitude than I do diving.
Right, that's funny.
And yet I'm an AWI instructor, and I just have always had an interest in dive medicine. But on the other hand, I probably have spent more time on mountains. I've been on Denali 3 times, two as a physician. I've been on up on Everest twice. I've been at Dakin Farache in remote Nepal twice, and it's just like it's. But for me, the wilderness is. I also do sailboat and marine medicine with MedSail. I dive. So it's just, to me, it's taking the same practice of austere medicine and putting it in any environments. The one I'm not the most familiar with, or not the most comfortable, obviously, is, for me, is like jungle and desert. Oh my God, snakes and dry. Horrible.
Well, now, okay, so someone who's not really into wilderness medicine but has a passion for the outdoors and is a medical person, I know when I was first getting into this, I would sit in the audience at some of these conferences, or I'd talk to these people that to me were medical heroes, like you said, and I would think, man, how could I do this? Because it just seems so amazing to be able to go and serve like at Everest Base Camp, in the clinic there, or to go on some of these trips and be a medical officer for some of these expeditions. What advice would you have someone who wants to get into it?
It is hard. It's not hard. It's just the fact that you're going to have to make choices. Recognize you're going to have to make choices that will open those opportunities up to you. Second of all, I think people always need to look locally and then go regionally or global.
That's a good point.
Maybe the person who wants to climb doesn't start with Everest the vast majority of time. And so for me, I started out, I had the opportunity of obviously going to Denali as a medical student doing research, but then subsequently, I went back and I became medical director of our search and rescue, ski patrol. I got involved in EMS. I got involved in Boy Scouts. I got
building your expertise, doing volunteer positions.
Absolutely, and did it locally. And people in our communities were desperate to have finally a physician who would give some time. And then there were topics that particularly interested me: lightning, hypothermia, drowning, diving, altitude, and I kind of go off in those areas and learned more and more, and then would give local talks to the Rotary Club on whatever, Boy Scouts, or the local medical staff, and as that evolved, and it became kind of more of a regional thing, and then my involvement with the WMS and other organizations kind of started more of my national national life that took me overseas.
Right. So, and yeah, and touching on that, so I get this question a lot. What sort of organizations are out there? I mean, obviously the Wilderness Medical Society,
Right.
but in addition to the WMS, what organizations pop in your mind as great resources for people, but then also that provide opportunities for you to gain experience?
You know, honestly, I don't care whether you're a neurosurgeon, a dermatologist, or a retinal ophthalmologist, or whatever subspecialty you exist. Your need, your expertise can be used in a variety of settings. I have a neurosurgeon friend of mine who just always wanted to do something like this. I kind of encouraged him to go create something, and sure enough, he worked with me in Kathmandu. He's now spending 6 months teaching in the University of Kathmandu for neurosurgical residents, and then comes back. And so it kind of like take your, you know, I think it goes back to, again, the kind of the basic tagline. Take what you love to do, combine it with what you do, and figure out, you know, where you want to go with it.
Sure.
I think there's grand opportunity for physicians
Right.
Who make good choices. I mean,
Right.
Unfortunately, I think you need to be careful about the choices you make, which may limit your ability to do some of those things. So,
Yeah, we discussed this before, and I've talked to Howard and talked to a lot of other people about this, but living frugally, not buying the $1 million house, the $2 million house, and you know, unless that's something you realize you're going to be tied to for a while, but designing your life in such a way that you have the flexibility.
Right. I think creating those opportunities, they just don't pop up.
Right.
You have to mold and help create some of those opportunities.
That's right. Yeah.
There was a family physician who worked at the Faraday Clinic years ago before I got there, the season before I got there. But he was here's a family doc from Illinois with his wife and three kids. Came on up and spent 4 months at Faraday.
Right.
And it's like, family doc, made good decisions.
Right.
Smart with his practice. Made lifestyle decisions that gave him the opportunity to have kind of creative experience.
Yeah.
So I believe anybody can do it. I also believe that a lot of healthcare providers have a tremendous amount of things to offer beyond their traditional practice. Yeah. And I think, plug your conference for Medical Fusion.
All right.
The fact is, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Because, I write, but have never really gotten. I can get things done in the medical realm, but if you want to go outside that standard textbook realm, it's hard. A lot of us, that's kind of unfamiliar territory to a lot of us, and we're not quite sure how to get started. And your conference allows people even like myself to kind of go, wow, I can, Howard's out doing films, and Dr. Donner, and or writing or venture capital or whatever it is. So, we physicians have tremendous opportunity if we're willing to take advantage of it.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. And the purpose of the Medical Fusion Conference is, I get asked this from time to time. Are you trying to take doctors who are clinicians and turn them into something else? And that's not the purpose. The purpose is to give you another skill set.
Right.
It's just like someone had to teach you how to put in a central line. Someone had to teach you how to intubate. Right. Someone had to teach you some of the basic material that you know and operate with now. There's a whole range of skills you need to know if you want to get into publishing, if you want to get into writing to lay people, if you want to get into the business world or do medical journalism. All those different things are really important areas, and clinicians have successfully transitioned into them. Right. But there's a skill set that you need, and what we're trying to do with Medical Fusion is not to take all the clinicians and turn them into business people, but just to augment what they're doing and to give them a new skill set so they can branch out.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I love medicine. I mean, I love medicine. I still see patients. Right. I still want to see patients. On the other hand, I like to do other things that keep me alive and growing. And much like the mentor, Dr. Hackett or Brownie Shaney or other people that influenced me when I was a third-year medical student, I assume a conference like this, I will meet mentors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who will then kind of go, wow, this is how they may have stumbled and fallen and created, gone through all the hassle, but I can learn from these people.
Right, absolutely.
And make my life a lot better. So I think it's a perfect opportunity.
Well, great. Well, thanks for the quick interview here, and thanks for speaking at the conference. And we look forward to seeing you at Medical Fusion.
Good. All right. Thank you very much.
No problem.